Hi, it's me Varsha again. Let's discuss something about cell membrane today. Now, the first question is who discovered the cell membrane? Of course, there are no points for guessing. It was Robert Hooke who discovered cell membrane for the first time. Before I get into the details of what we are or the details of the cell membrane, let us see what all subdivisions or what all main aspects that I would be covering in this video. First, we'll be discussing about how the word cell membrane originated. So that is etymology of the word. Then we look at the other name that the cell membrane has. We will look at what the cell membrane is made up of, its structure, functions, and a few special features that the cell membrane exhibits. With that being said, let me quickly get started with how the name cell membrane originated. In normal terminologies, we call the origin of the word as etymology. Okay? You need not have to worry about the word etymology, but if you know that cell membrane, the word membrane was derived from the Latin word membrana, that means a skin, a membrane or a membrane that covers parts of the body. That would be enough. Okay, let me repeat that for you. Let's see how the word membrane originated. It originated from the Latin word called membrana. Membrana in Latin, when I say membrana in Latin, that simply means a skin or a covering or a membrane which covers parts of the body. I hope this is clear to all of you. With that, let's move on to how a cell looks like and where exactly is the cell membrane. I've drawn an animal cell and a plant cell for your reference here. In this animal cell, the cell membrane forms the outer protective covering of the cell, right? Within which we can see the cytoplasm and all the other cell organelles. We will discuss about all the other cell organelles in the upcoming videos. Okay, that was with respect to animal cell. In plant cell, the cell membrane is present. Can you see the membrane that I have drawn using the blue colored marker? That is very much inside this thick wall. This entire thick wall is the cell wall. And note that we see the cell wall only in the plant cell. So, if there is a plant cell, right, the outermost covering of the plant cell has the cell wall. We will discuss about its composition later on in the later videos. So, the outer part is the cell wall and immediately inside the cell wall is the cell membrane. This is with respect to plant cells only. But in animal cells, we don't see a cell wall. The outermost layer is the cell membrane. Okay. With that being said, let me quickly move on to what the cell membrane is made up of. The cell membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. Okay, let me move slightly to a higher level and tell you how the lipids and proteins are arranged within a cell membrane. Of course, the arrangement of lipids and proteins are not necessary or you need not know about that for your grade 9 NCERT. Alright? Those who would like to take up biology in their higher grades can know this and this will be beneficial in your higher grades as well. So, if I take a section of the cell membrane and study it under a very good microscope, probably an electron microscope, then this is how the lipids and proteins are arranged. Let me repeat that sentence for you. If I take a section, a small bit of the cell membrane and place it under the microscope, which is very good microscope, meaning I can see every little detail of the cell membrane. Then, if I do that, then I'll be able to see two layers of lipids. These drawings that I've drawn using green, the circle and tail-like structures, these are lipids. So you have two layers of lipids, and in between the lipids are proteins arranged. Okay, I am reiterating this. This arrangement of lipids and proteins within the cell membrane is not required for your grade 9 curriculum. But you just have to know that the cell membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. Okay. Now we have discussed about how the word membrane was derived or how did it originate. Then we have seen the place or where you can find the cell membrane within an animal cell and within a plant cell, and also what it is made up of. Now let's quickly move on to the functions. What might be the function of a cell membrane? Since it is the outermost layer here within an animal cell, it acts like a boundary. It acts like a protective covering. Okay, and also it has this protective covering has some special features like it is semi permeable and also selectively permeable. I have written the actual dictionary meanings of semi permeable and selectively permeable here on the board for you. Semi means half, right? Permeable means allowing liquids or gases to pass through. I think with this you have understood the feature or the function of the cell membrane. Yes, you have guessed it right. The cell membrane will allow only a few liquids and gases to pass through them. That is semi-permeable. Then I also said that it is selectively permeable. That means the cell membrane is very picky, it is very choosy. It will not allow anybody and everybody to enter the cell. So it will intentionally choose the materials which will enter or exit the cell. Okay, so let me repeat these special features of the cell. If I say semi permeable, then it means the cell membrane will allow only half of the liquids or fluids or gases to pass through it, and also it will intentionally choose the materials which should come into the cell and which should be going out of the cell. So these are the very specific details of the cell membrane. I would like to go through whatever we have discussed. Cell membrane is the outermost layer of any animal cell, whereas in plant cell it forms the second layer from the outside. Since it is the outermost layer, it acts as a protective barrier, okay, and also it is like a boundary of any cell. Then, how did the name cell membrane originate and who discovered it? Robert Hooke, who actually studied the cell for the first time, also discovered the cell membrane. The Latin word membrana was the main root word from which membrane was derived. Membrana means a skin or a membrane or a covering that covers the parts of the body. I have also drawn an animal cell and a plant cell to help you understand where the cell membrane is situated in both of them. Okay? Now, cell membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. You must know this for your grade 9 curriculum. I think we have discussed most of it. Yeah, one more thing. The cell membrane is also called as plasma membrane. If, for example, in any of your question papers, if the word plasma membrane is mentioned, you should not think what it is. I've never learned about it. Plasma membrane is the cell membrane itself. Alright. So other special features are the cell membrane will only allow pick and choose materials that can go in or come out of the cell. For example, if a cell, I've taken a simple cell, animal cell as an example here. If the cell wants oxygen gas inside, okay, then these oxygen molecules can easily move into the cell because it allows specific liquids or gases to enter. The cell membrane is allowing it to enter, and if there is more carbon dioxide inside, and if that has to be sent out of the cell, then the carbon dioxide molecules can also diffuse outside. So what you mean by this word diffuse? Have you heard about this before? I think some of you who would have learned science or grade 8 ICSE would have come across this word diffuse. Diffuse is the process of movement of molecules of either solids, liquids or gases from their high concentration to their low concentration. Now let us not worry about the cell for a minute until we understand the meaning of the word diffusion. Okay. So diffusion, if I take an example of incense sticks or the agarbatti that you use in the puja room. If I light one or two agarbattis in the puja room, initially I would smell the agarbatti only in the puja room. But later on, I can get this fragrance of agarbatti also near my main entrance. This is because the molecules of this gas that is emitted from the agarbatti stick or the incense stick has moved from puja room where it was in more concentration, or there were too many molecules of this fragrance there, and from there they have moved to the main entrance or throughout the entire house, and this process continues until all the molecules of this fragrance are equally distributed. Okay, so this process is called as diffusion. All right, the process of diffusion is the movement of molecules from their high concentration to their low concentration. Here I may be talking about solids, liquids or gases. Okay. Now, if I consider a cell as an example with respect to biology, then movement of gases into and out of the cell also serves, or they are the best examples for diffusion. Also, if I have to talk to you about the movement of water molecules only, okay, movement of water molecules only, then I would rather use a terminology called as osmosis. Osmosis is also called as specialized diffusion. Okay, so what does that mean? Here, diffusion, like you know, is the process of movement of molecules from their high concentration to their low concentration, right? Now, I said that osmosis is only related to the movement of water molecules. So that simply means that if the water molecules move from their high concentration to their low concentration through the selectively permeable membrane, that is the cell membrane, then that process is called as osmosis. Let me repeat the definition of osmosis for you. The process of movement of water molecules from their high concentration to their low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane, then only that process is called as osmosis. Now, think that assume that there are too many water molecules inside the cell. Okay. Now, as a or now the process of osmosis would start if the water molecules are moving from their high concentration to their low concentration through the selectively permeable membrane. Okay. Water here outside was less, water within the cell was more. So molecules of water have moved from their high concentration to their low concentration through this semi-permeable and selectively permeable membrane, which is the cell membrane. And if this happens, then we call that osmosis has occurred. I think with this, I'll be wrapping up this session. Let me quickly take you through what all we have discussed. We have discussed who discovered the cell membrane, how the word or the terminology membrane derived, or what was the origin of the word. Then, what is the other name of the cell membrane? What is the cell membrane made up of? Okay, its structure, though the structure is not required for your level. For your grade 9, you should know that the cell membrane is the outermost covering in animal cell, but in the plant cell, it forms the secondmost layer just inside the cell membrane or cell wall, sorry. And also we have discussed about its function. It will allow, the cell membrane will allow movement of molecules into and out of the cell. And also it allows only a few, half of the liquids or gases or any substance for that matter. And it intentionally chooses the things which it would allow into the cell or not. Okay. So the word selectively permeable is very important. We have discussed about what diffusion is in normal context with reference to incense sticks and also with reference to the cell. And also, if I'm talking about movement of water molecules only through the semi-permeable membrane, then it is called as osmosis or specialized diffusion. With this, I would be ending today's video. Thank you.